The story starts with a man named Hiroyuki. He is your typical otaku who loves watching anime. His mother lectures him about watching anime all day, even on his days off. He is 26, and at this age, he should be looking for a wife. She reminds him about their neighbor who is getting married next month. He irritably looks at her, feeling uncomfortable with her reality check. Tired of his mom's constant lecturing, he decides to move out. He finds a nice, quiet apartment for himself. After moving all his stuff in, he decides to introduce himself to his neighbors. He rings the bell of the apartment next door and is met by a very irritated girl named Oshino Makoto. Hiroyuki is startled to see that she is a delinquent. Suddenly, she starts laughing at him. With a petrified expression, he realizes he is wearing an anime shirt. He was so caught up with moving that he didn't realize he was wearing this shirt outside. Makoto closes the door behind him as he runs away with an embarrassed expression, realizing that she has figured out he is an otaku. The next day, he prepares to head to work. His mind is still wondering about yesterday's incident. He starts to worry that this apartment complex might be filled with delinquents. He shrugs off the thought, deciding there is no use in pondering it. He is determined to change his attitude and start anew, so he decides it would be best to avoid her. However, that plan wasn't meant to be. Hiroyuki runs into her as soon as he steps outside. She once again teases him for being an otaku. Judging from her uniform, he realizes that she is a high schooler. Hiroyuki's introverted personality kicks in, and he tries to run away. Makoto is left confused seeing this, leaving her to wonder why he is in such a hurry. She realizes that he must be feeling awkward about yesterday. She decides to tease him some more by getting closer to him. While trying to run, she stumbles and falls over. Seeing this, Hiroyuki wonders if he should help her. However, since he had already decided not to associate with her, he decides to leave her be. As he begins to walk away, he is startled to see that she has injured both of her knees. He immediately goes to her and orders her to sit while he gets some bandages. He quickly goes over to a nearby store. When he returns, he finds her waiting for him. He starts to tend to her wounds, but while doing this, he notices the stares of the nearby people. He can't help but feel like a creep kneeling in front of a schoolgirl. After finishing up, he tries to run away again, only to find that they take the same train. The atmosphere turns awkward as they quietly stand next to each other. Makoto wonders if she should thank him for helping her out earlier. She further realizes that he is actually quite good-looking, something she didn't realize yesterday. Suddenly, the train rattles around, causing her to fall closer to him. He asks if she's okay. With an embarrassed expression, she quickly replies that she is fine. She wanted to thank him, but she ended up accidentally yelling at him instead. On top of this, the crowded train is making the situation even more embarrassing for her. Being so close, she can even smell his cologne. As soon as the train doors open, she runs away, embarrassing. She says goodbye, calling him an old man. She finally arrives at the school. Seeing the bandages on her knees, her classmates assume that she might have been fighting all day. There are rumors about her that she once beat up 10 guys all by herself. She gives them an intense glare, asking what they are muttering about. Just one look from her is enough to scare everyone off. Elsewhere, Hiroyuki finally arrives at his office. He is still baffled that she called him an old man. His boss comes over in anger and reminds him that he is late. He apologizes, saying it was because of the moving. His boss sarcastically asks if his new place is haunted. For an introvert like Hiroyuki, that would have been a better scenario. With concern, his boss asks whether they need to contact a good spiritualist. He quickly responds that he is fine. He can't tell them that he has been mentally crushed by a high schooler. This pain can only be understood by those who have experienced it. After this exhausting experience with his boss, he returns home and decides to go to bed early. Upon arriving at his apartment, he spots Makoto sitting on the ground. She is busy searching for her keys. It seems Makoto is a bit of a klutz. Feeling bad for her, Hiroyuki decides to help her out and turns on his flashlight. This way it'll be easier for her to find her keys. Once again, her tsundere personality kicks in. When she finds her key, he heads to his room. She calls out to him and asks whether he likes sweet or salty things. When he answers salty, she gives him a packet of chips. She tells him it's a thank you gift. He tries to politely decline, but she insists, thanking him with a red face. Hiroyuki goes back to watching anime. He tries the chips Makoto gave him, finding them very tasty. Meanwhile, Makoto can't stop thinking earlier. Perhaps this is a sign that of things to come. Days pass, and Hiroyuki continues running into Makoto. He was worried at first, but now he can rest easy knowing she isn't some weirdo. However, that opinion is challenged when he sees her fighting with a goon on the way. Hiroyuki's instincts kick in, telling him to run away. However, as a responsible adult, he can't bring himself to do so. He turns back and yells, "Police!" This distracts the goon, allowing Hiroyuki to grab her and run away. Makoto feels embarrassed holding his hand. After they go a little farther, he lets go of her hand. She thanks him for saving her, but he shouts at her for fighting with someone dangerous, which leaves her baffled. He adds that if something happened to her, it would worry her parents. She tells him it's got nothing to do with him. She reminds him that she didn't ask for his help, adding that he acted on his own. Angered, Makoto calls him stupid and runs off. Hiroyuki realizes he might have touched a sensitive spot. During school, Makoto is still thinking about him. She looks at her hand and recalls the earlier incident. Makoto finds herself thinking about Hiroyuki's hands, noticing how much bigger and stronger they were. Suddenly, she snaps out of it, reminding herself that she is supposed to be angry with him. Not to mention, this was the first time she held hands with a man, and he turns out to be someone older than her. Her classmates soon notice her sour mood. Meanwhile, Hiroyuki is in a dilemma, wondering if he shouldn't have scolded her, which had obviously upset her. Even though he hasn't done anything wrong, he can't shake off the sadness he feels. It dawns on him that the feeling is similar to when the neighborhood cat growls at him. His boss notices the strange expression on Hiroyuki's face and asks what's going on. Hiroyuki asks how to win over someone who acts like a cat. Being a cat lover, the boss suggests offering food, giving a little attention, and patting its head. Hiroyuki can't help but picture himself doing the same with Makoto. At the same time, Makoto receives a message from her mom, informing her that her monthly allowance has been sent and asking her to visit soon. When her friends invite her to dinner, Makoto declines, feeling down. As she looks up, she sees Hiroyuki standing in front of her, asking why she is still around so late. Seeing the frown on her face, he realizes she is still mad at him. Determined to make amends, he decides to follow his boss's advice. He apologizes for scolding her that morning and offers to treat her to dinner. They go to a restaurant where they order their food from a self-service counter. Makoto is annoyed by his choice, thinking he should have chosen a fancier place if he really wanted to impress her. As she stares at the food with a grim expression, she can't help but feel that Hiroyuki still treats her like a kid. It's not that she wants to change his perspective, but she does wish he was more aware. Hiroyuki, noticing her expression, assumes she might have a stomachache. They begin eating, and he advises her to avoid doing dangerous things like she had that morning, reminding her to take care of herself because she is a girl. She reluctantly agrees. After the meal, Hiroyuki asks if she wants some juice as he is heading to the convenience store. She tries to brush off his offer, but he insists. A little while later, he hands her the drink, which she accepts with a quiet thanks. Wanting to start over, Hiroyuki introduces himself, asking her not to call him old since he is only 26. In response, she cheekily calls him Yamada without any honorific, which makes him protest. She introduces herself too, suggesting he could call her by her first name. When he tries Makoto-chan, she bristles, not wanting to be treated like a child. He hesitates to drop the honorific altogether, so she lets the matter go. Hiroyuki realizes that Makoto's behavior is a lot like a cat's. At their apartment doors, he thanks her for having dinner with him. She tells him it isn't necessary. He wishes her good night and heads inside. Once alone in her room, she feels a wave of emotion, realizing it has been a long time since someone has wished her good night. Feeling like a lovesick girl, she lets out a frustrated shout. Meanwhile, Hiroyuki is excitedly immersed in his video game. The next day, Makoto makes extra food and decides to share it with Hiroyuki. As she stands at his door, she convinces herself that she's doing it purely out of kindness, not because she's interested in him. When Hiroyuki opens the door, unshaven and wearing an anime t-shirt, she tries to insist to herself that he isn't likable. On the train, Hiroyuki compliments her curry. Nervously, she offers to make it again if he likes. However, he politely declines, explaining that with food prices being so high, they should only cook for themselves. This practical response draws curious stares from the people around them. Irritated by his logic, Makoto asks if it would be okay for him to start paying her for the food. Playfully poking him, she points out that he relies too much on takeout, which could make him gain weight. Finally, she suggests that it would be beneficial for him if she prepared his lunches. Seeing the sense in her offer, especially how it could help him save money for his hobbies, Hiroyuki agrees, though she finds his acceptance a bit strange. The following day, Makoto is seen flipping through a cookbook, contemplating what to make for his bento. She realizes she doesn't know his food preferences. Later at work, Hiroyuki's boss notices his bento and encourages him to open it. Embarrassed, Hiroyuki hesitates as he discovers that his food is arranged in the shape of an anon girl, something he's not eager to show his boss. Meanwhile, at Makoto's school, the girls are excited to see her bento, which is adorably shaped like animals. They eagerly take pictures, and when the photos are uploaded online, comments flood in, with people surprised by how cute her lunch is and noting that she's girlier than they thought. The attention brings her a bit of unexpected fame. After the day ends, Hiroyuki meets Makoto and requests a more normal lunch. When she asks for his preferred foods, he starts to tell her, but she interrupts to take notes. He then suggests they go shopping together to finish quickly. At the supermarket, Makoto picks up bell peppers, which baffles Hiroyuki. He then adds a pack of idol wafers to the cart, explaining that it's a rare edition. She protests that he could just buy a regular snack, but he seriously defends it as his way of treating himself, making her comment on how childish he is. After finishing their shopping, Hiroyuki is drawn to a candy machine and can't resist trying his luck for his favorite candy. When Makoto asks if he got what he wanted, he sheepishly admits he didn't and tries several more times. On their way home, Makoto remarks on his persistence with the candy machine. He responds that it's his reason for earning money and adds that he had fun shopping with her. She smiles and says she's looking forward to making his lunch. As they walk, Hiroyuki thinks she's cute. On the stairs, he reflects that these feelings might be similar to what he once felt for a younger sister. But that was in the past. He later checks his game collection and decides to settle for 2D games, content with his current lifestyle. That night, Hiroyuki has nightmares about past girlfriends who broke up with him because they found him boring. When he wakes up, he feels awful. The next day at work, Hiroyuki's boss announces a no-overtime day, encouraging everyone to go home and spend time with their families. He insists Hiroyuki leave early as well. Meanwhile, Makoto's friends say goodbye, promising to share lunch the next day. As she sits down, she thinks that making bento might actually help her make friends. She then spots Hiroyuki and decides to approach him. However, as she gets closer, she overhears his conversation with his boss, who is teasing him about having a girlfriend who makes lunch for him. Hiroyuki denies this, explaining that because of the age difference, it's more like a sibling relationship and that Makoto is probably just being kind. He further adds that even if she were interested in him, he isn't interested in her. His boss then inquires about his romantic preferences, and Hiroyuki confesses that after his last breakup, he realized he prefers being single, as relationships require energy that he simply doesn't have anymore. His boss is surprised when Hiroyuki dreamily adds that he's content with his decision to give up on romance. Makoto, hearing all this, quietly retreats, conflicted about her own feelings. When Hiroyuki bids farewell to his boss and spots Makoto, he begins to thank her for the lunch, but she snatches the bento from his hands and runs off. Hiroyuki's boss, despite feeling it's not his place to comment on Hiroyuki's personal life, worries that if Hiroyuki continues to build walls around himself, he might miss out on something important. When Makoto returns home, she reflects on Hiroyuki's conversation with his boss. She wonders if being with her is a burden to him, even though she tries her best to make him bentos. Lost in thought, she eventually drifts off to sleep. Around 7:30, while watching the news, Hiroyuki realizes it's the time when Makoto usually brings his bento. He wonders if she overslept and decides to check on her. When she answers the door with a drowsy face, he asks if she's feeling okay. She admits she might have a slight fever and apologizes for not making a bento. Concerned, Hiroyuki insists she go to the clinic, but she brushes off the idea, saying she just needs some sleep. Ignoring her protests, he carries her to the clinic. The receptionist informs them they'll need to wait for their turn. Hiroyuki asks if she wants something to drink, but she declines. She tries to apologize, worried he needs to go to work, but he dismisses her concerns, reminding her that she's always helping him. He tells her she can rely on him if she needs anything. As she looks at him, she wonders why he's being so kind. While waiting, she dozes off on his shoulder, which surprises him. He reassures her that she can depend on him. As she snuggles closer, she thinks to herself that Hiroyuki doesn't see her as a woman. Meanwhile, an elderly couple nearby looks at them with affection. After they return home, Hiroyuki asks how she's feeling. She says she's better after getting an IV drip. He gives her some food and drinks to help her stay hydrated, and then suggests they exchange email addresses to stay in touch in case of emergencies. As they exchange addresses, Makoto feels like the distance between them is shrinking. Hesitantly, she asks if he's this worried about everyone. He explains that it's different with her because she's his neighbor and a high schooler, so he feels responsible for her. Besides, he adds, she's like a younger sister to him. However, Makoto doesn't want to be seen as just a sister. She thanks him for his help and heads back to her apartment. On the train ride to work, Hiroyuki starts overthinking, wondering if he upset her by doing something wrong. Ever since becoming an otaku, Hiroyuki has become an overthinker, often getting too caught up in others' feelings despite struggling to understand them. He sulks, frustrated by his inability to grasp people's emotions, and even considers that if he had enough money, he might just withdraw from social interactions altogether. On his way home, he passes by a lottery machine and impulsively buys 10 consecutive number tickets and 10 random ones, hoping for a lucky break. Meanwhile, at home, Makoto receives a message from a classmate wishing her well. As she reads it, she reflects on how she started becoming friendlier with her classmates since she began making bentos for Hiroyuki. Later, her classmate Rina visits her, commenting that it's more fun to skip school and hang out. Rina shows Makoto the things she brought over for their meal, joking that they're going to eat together. She asks if Makoto wants anything else since she's feeling under the weather. Makoto checks the lunch and says it's already enough. Rina casually mentions that it's from her neighbor who annoys her, and Makoto nonchalantly comments that Hiroyuki is dull-looking and an anime nerd. Observing her expression, Rina asks if she likes him. Makoto furiously denies it, but Rina teases her, asking if it would be okay for her to meet Hiroyuki. Makoto protests, which only makes Rina more smug as she comments that even a tough girl like Makoto could have a love interest. Makoto insists it's not like that, explaining that Hiroyuki sees her as a sister and isn't interested in romance. Rina points out that Hiroyuki doesn't seem to notice her feelings and slyly suggests she could teach Makoto ways to get his attention. That evening, on his way back home, Hiroyuki checks his phone, wondering about Makoto's well-being. He debates whether he should call her but decides against it, worried he might bother her. As he approaches his apartment, he's surprised to find Makoto waiting for him. She explains that she heard him coming and wanted to thank him for taking care of her earlier. Relieved to see she's alright, he smiles. Suddenly, Makoto becomes nervous, remembering Rina's suggestion that she kiss Hiroyuki. She had been reluctant, knowing it would be her first kiss, and Rina had teased her about her innocence. Now in the present, Makoto hesitantly removes her mask, telling herself that it's just a matter of courage and has nothing to do with her feelings for him. She quickly kisses him on the cheek, leaving him stunned. Blushing, she thanks him for his help again. The shock is so overwhelming for him that he loses consciousness. On her way home, Rina ponders Makoto's romantic life and resolves to confront Hiroyuki if anything happens to her friend. Meanwhile, Makoto panics when she sees Hiroyuki unconscious and quickly rushes to his side. After checking him over, she concludes that an ambulance isn't necessary. Determined to help him, she takes the keys from his pocket, unlocks his door, and drags him into his apartment with some effort. Once inside, she manages to get him onto his bed and removes his glasses. As she looks at his face, she realizes how much younger he appears without them. Her gaze lingers on his lips, and she blushes, wondering what it would be like to kiss him. She hesitantly lowers her head toward his, but suddenly, he mutters something in his sleep, startling her. Quickly, she puts his glasses back on and hopes he wakes up soon. After a while, Hiroyuki feels a throbbing pain in his head and slowly opens his eyes. The sight of Makoto hovering over him startles him, and he asks why she's in his room. She explains that he lost consciousness, hit his head, and she brought him inside to help. As he listens, he suddenly remembers what happened when he got home in facepalms, noticing her flushed face. Nervous, he wonders if this is some modern way of showing gratitude. Unsure of how to respond, he pretends not to remember anything since he bumped his head, hoping to avoid an awkward conversation. Makoto's eyes narrow in frustration, annoyed that he's acting like he doesn't remember. It had taken a lot of courage for her to kiss him, but she decides to let it go, thinking it might be better this way. As she looks around his room, Hiroyuki is reminded of how his previous girlfriend reacted to his living space. Expecting judgment, he's surprised when Makoto casually remarks that she won't judge him. She observes that it's a good thing he has a hobby and items related to it, expressing a bit of jealousy since she doesn't have any hobbies herself. Suddenly, her eyes land on an anime figure she recognizes from her childhood. She struggles to recall the character's name, and Hiroyuki eagerly supplies it, launching into a passionate explanation about a movie called **Summer Voice** that was released last year. He praises its story despite the director facing some visual challenges and offers to lend her the movie. He abruptly stops, realizing that most people don't share his enthusiasm for these things, but when he sees her positive reaction, it makes him genuinely happy. Makoto's gaze then falls on a figurine in his room, and she asks if he's into that kind of stuff. Embarrassed, Hiroyuki tries to hide the figurine, but in the process they both lose their balance and fall, with him ending up hovering over her. Both are left in a nervous mess, and they quickly get up flustered. Makoto rushes home without another word. After she leaves, Hiroyuki is left feeling mortified by the entire ordeal. He realizes that his feelings toward Makoto are far from platonic and begins to see her as a woman, not just a neighbor or a younger sister figure. He tries to shake off these thoughts, knowing he shouldn't get too close to her. The next day, Makoto is nervous about facing Hiroyuki, especially since he supposedly doesn't remember the kiss. Deciding to act normal, she rings his doorbell and hands in his bento when he answers. He thanks her, but as they descend the stairs, he suddenly tells her that she doesn't need to make lunch for him anymore. Startled, she asks if the lunches were awful, but he quickly reassures her that they weren't. He explains that he's realized it might be a burden for her and that he can make his own lunches. He also suggests that it would be better for her to make lunch for her boyfriend instead. Makoto bluntly replies that she doesn't have one. Hiroyuki responds that it could become a problem when she eventually finds a boyfriend, as he realizes she has been making lunch just for him. Suddenly, Makoto clenches her fist and moves toward him, but stops herself. Instead, she agrees not to make lunches for him anymore and turns away, leaving Hiroyuki confused. Inside, she's furious that he's talking about her finding a boyfriend, especially since she doesn't want to hear that from him. Later, she's seen angrily punching a vending machine. Rina, noticing her foul mood, comments that she might break the machine at this rate. Another friend guesses that her sour mood has something to do with a boy. Makoto explains that it's all because of Rina's bad advice and how it's messed everything up. Rina, realizing what's happened, smirks and asks if Makoto finally kissed him, admitting that her previous advice was just a joke. Rina then takes a more serious tone, explaining that sometimes things don't go as planned and that it's not entirely in their control. She suggests that Hiroyuki might have reacted the way he did because he's an adult and doesn't want a high school girl chasing after him. With a bit of a sigh, Rina refers to him as an ordinary loser, trying to lighten the mood. Makoto, still angry and frustrated, isn't entirely comforted by Rina's words. She realizes she's in deeper than she thought and doesn't know what to do next. Rina, seeing Makoto's distress, consoles her and advises that she take things slowly with Hiroyuki, especially regarding her feelings. On her way home, Makoto's expression is downcast. When she arrives at her apartment, she notices a bag hanging on the handle of her door. Inside the bag is a note from Hiroyuki, praising her lunches, along with an anime movie he had previously recommended. As she reads the note, it feels to her like Hiroyuki's way of saying goodbye. She gazes in the direction of his room, torn between the desire to talk to him and the fear of what that conversation might lead to. Just as she contemplates her next move, her phone rings. It's her mother, checking in on her. Makoto assures her that she's doing fine. Her mom asks if she's been well and mentions that the bar is closed today, so she has some free time. She also hints that there's someone she wants Makoto to meet and suggests that Makoto consider living with them if possible. A few days pass, and Hiroyuki finds himself staring in the direction of Makoto's apartment. He realizes he hasn't seen her since his farewell note. Despite adjusting his schedule slightly, he struggles to focus. The incident with Makoto weighs heavily on his mind, leaving him distracted and restless. In an attempt to move on, he even goes on a group date, though the experience only makes him feel worse. During the date, his friends notice his lack of enthusiasm and comment on how disinterested he seems. Hiroyuki brushes off their remarks, saying that sometimes he just goes through the motions. However, he knows deep down that he's trying to distract himself from thoughts of Makoto. As the group chats, one of the girls brings up the topic of pets, and Hiroyuki finds himself even more disengaged. Later, his date approaches him with an offer for a drink. Hiroyuki tells her his preferences, and she mentions her fondness for Japanese liquor, suggesting they try some together. Hiroyuki tries to convince himself that he's not obsessed with high school girls and that he can be interested in an adult woman too. But the persistent thoughts of Makoto frustrate him. After getting her drink, his date asks about his hobbies. Hiroyuki knows this is the key question that always comes up. He considers lying, as he has in past relationships, but this time he decides to be honest. He admits that he's into anime and otaku culture. with a collection of DVDs and figurines in his room. He even mentions his fascination with gachapon machines. His date nervously tries to play along, acknowledging that it's part of Japanese subculture. Hiroyuki can sense her discomfort and thinks to himself that it's painful when someone tries to force themselves to accept his interests. He would rather she either make fun of him or genuinely enjoy his company without pretending. Suddenly, an image of Makoto smiling and teasing him about his hobbies flashes in his mind, and he's horrified to realize he's thinking about her again. Desperate to change the subject, he asks about her favorite kind of alcohol, and she eagerly responds, recommending a few options. They end up ordering several drinks. Later, when the group decides to move to another location, they realize Hiroyuki is too drunk to continue. His date apologizes for making him drink so much, but he waves it off. After saying their goodbyes, Hiroyuki stumbles home, feeling sick and dull from the mixture of beer and Japanese liquor. As he leans against a wall, almost dozing off, he hears a familiar voice calling his name. It's Makoto telling him not to sleep there, warning that he might catch a cold. At first, Hiroyuki tries to brush her off, thinking he's imagining her. Makoto snaps at him, telling him that she's taken the time to worry about him, and he's treating her dismissively. Startled, Hiroyuki realizes she's real and not just a figment of his imagination. He nervously comments on the coincidence of meeting her there, but she reminds him that it's the usual route they take to their apartments. He sheepishly admits that he's drunk and just wants to rest. Makoto suggests they go to a nearby park. After a while, they're sitting on a bench, and she asks if he's calmed down. Hiroyuki, still a bit disoriented, nods and answers affirmatively. The next day, they meet at a cafe. Her mother is visibly taken aback to see Makoto after so long. Meanwhile, Hiroyuki scolds himself for oversleeping. On his way to work, he crosses paths with Makoto, who playfully teases him for his messy morning hair. Nervously, he ponders that they seem to have returned to their usual light-hearted conversation. On the train ride, he wonders quietly if Makoto might be moving away. When she suddenly bumps her head, he instinctively asks if she's all right, and the moment pulls him back to a similar incident from their past. He's left reflecting on how calmly, and almost indifferently, he handled it today, and is surprised at his own reaction. Noticing his flushed cheeks and the faint sheen of sweat on his forehead, she asks if he's feeling all right. Yamada quickly waves off her concern, insisting he's fine. But later, at lunch, he lets out a deep sigh, finally accepting the truth. His feelings for her are growing stronger than he'd like to admit. His boss, picking up on his focus, teases him, suggesting maybe he's not receiving a lovingly prepared lunch from someone special. Yamada deflects, saying his mood is more complicated, leading his boss to poke fun at him again, reminding him of his professed disinterest in romance. Irritated, Yamada shouts for him to drop it, then reluctantly admits that he's already anxious enough about the situation. His boss, somewhat surprised, marvels at how someone as reserved as him has started opening up to love. With a friendly tone, the boss assures Hiroyuki that if things work out, they will always be welcome at his place, even if he doesn't know much about her yet. Embarrassed, Hiroyuki hesitates to clarify that Makoto is a high schooler, surprised by his boss's unwavering support. Later, on his way home, he decides that if Makoto is home, he will invite her to dinner, hoping to make up for last time's disappointing beef bowl. But as he arrives, he notices packed belongings near her flat, which hits him with the realization that she might actually be moving out. The next morning, movers load up belongings, and Makoto expresses gratitude for their assistance, to which they kindly respond. Hiroyuki, looking on sadly, is haunted by the sound of the moving truck, which constantly reminds him of her departure. Though he could contact her by phone, he feels uncertain about when they might meet again. Makoto visits his place, but it seems like he is not home. He awkwardly waits, unsure of what to do. If this is truly the end, he'll regret it. Determined, he gets out of bed and heads out. Holding back tears, he calls out to her from the staircase, confessing that while he was once nervous about living next to her, now he's grateful. Smiling, he adds that seeing her connect with her mother brings him happiness. Just then, he stumbles down the stairs. With concern in her eyes, she asks if he's okay. He takes her hand gently, replying that there are still memories they need to make, places to visit, and meals to share. At that moment, an older woman interjects, announcing that it's her who is moving. Hiroyuki is visibly relieved, yet astonished. Mikoto quickly clarifies that the woman lives below her and is relocating to an assisted living facility. That is why Mikoto rang his bell to ask whether he would help him in cleaning. Relieved yet a bit embarrassed, he asks if she's been planning to move in with her mother. Mikoto explains that her recent talk with her mom concluded with permission to live independently. She mentions that she didn't want to impose on her mother's remarriage. Realizing his error, Hiroyuki feels embarrassed. Mikoto scolds him, reminding him of his earlier words. He softly comments that she kissed him that day, leaving her momentarily speechless. When she asks if he recalls the incident, he slyly smirks and quips that ignoring it would have only added an awkward elephant in the room. Just then, the older woman shouts for them to quit dawdling and help. They jump in, finally wrapping up the move. However, the unique and complex bond between them feels as if it will persist, intertwining their lives as neighbors and perhaps something more. The scene transitions to Mikoto's childhood incident when she was determined to win a gold medal. Her mother had suggested learning piano instead, but Mikoto tearfully insisted on studying karate like others so she could win that medal. Seeing her determination, her father enrolled her in a tournament where she became the junior champion. Filled with pride, her father told her she would grow stronger every day and promised to always be there for her. Now sitting alone by the roadside, she wonders why her father left her. A stranger approaches, warning her it's unsafe to be alone, and offers to walk her home. Although she insists she's fine, he grabs her hand, trying to lead her away. Just then, another girl calls out, saying that she has been waiting for her, and demands that the stranger let go. Mikoto, momentarily confused, realizes she doesn't know the girl. When the stranger ignores the warning and tries to harass the new girl as well, Mikoto recalls her father's words about becoming stronger. She confronts the stranger fiercely, and the two girls thank each other. The new girl, Rina, invites Mikoto to join her for a meal, and she accepts. As they walk together, Mikoto feels as if she can hear her father's voice. She grips the gold medal in her pocket, reassuring herself that her father is still watching over her. Back in the present, Mikoto notices Yamada's awkward expression and asks if something is wrong. Forcing a smile, he admits he's still sore from his fall and plans to rest in his room. She suggests bringing him food, and he lights up with excitement, though he later regrets not playing it cooler. When she arrives with the food, he's genuinely happy. He notices that his magazine cabinet has swung open. Embarrassed, he shuts it, declining her offer to help clean, and can't help but feel self-conscious. As Yamada turns off the TV, he reflects on how it's been 3 months since he moved in and how he's gradually adjusting to living alone. Then Mikoto entered his life. Though they're building a friendship, he senses a strange distance between them, yet he still finds himself waiting to see her each day. Just then, he spots Mikoto on the train, looking somewhat downcast. When he asks what's wrong, she mentions her final exams are next week, and he can see she's feeling the pressure. She asks if he could help her study, leaving him in shock as he realizes this means they would be alone together. Torn by conflicting emotions, he worries that being so close to her might make him lose control of his feelings, or that he could unintentionally hurt her, risking serious trouble. Overwhelmed, he declines her request. Disappointed, she asks if he dislikes her that much. Yamada quickly tries to reassure her, apologizing and explaining that he's forgotten most of what he learned in high school. Smiling, he promises to treat her to her favorite food if she improves her grades, which cheers her up. As she exits the train, she reminds him not to forget his promise. He exhales in relief, acknowledging his fondness for her, but knowing he can't confess his feelings since she's still a high school student. He's afraid of doing anything that might make her dislike him. Meanwhile, at school, Mikoto contemplates improving her grades for the promised dinner. Knowing studying isn't her strength, she looks around for a smart classmate and spots Kashiwagi, who has always been slightly intimidated by her. Recently, however, he's noticed her kind-hearted nature. She firmly tells him to come over and, in an intense tone, asks if he'll help her study. Terrified, he doesn't respond, so she warns him of the consequences if he refuses. Trying to stay calm, Kashiwagi reminds himself of her good qualities. As they study in the library, she grows frustrated, saying she doesn't understand anything, and he realizes he's in for a long session. Kashiwagi's attention is drawn to her pencil, his eyes widening in excitement. He points it out, recognizing it as an exclusive mechanical pencil featuring the Eggland's Idol character from a limited edition. She explains that her neighbor, Yamada, an adult but a major anime fan, gave it to her. Blushing, she mentions that his room is filled with action figures and manga, noting that he even gave her a snack box as a gift. Thrilled, Kashiwagi calls Yamada his master, admiring the lifestyle he dreams of. He wonders about Makoto's relationship with her neighbor, but quickly refocuses, determined to meet his master. She remains oblivious to how much her knowledge of Yamada has fascinated Kashiwagi. Determined, she works hard and is thrilled to make the top 100 students for the first time. She eagerly shares her results with Yamada, who praises her and playfully reminds her of the promised treat. When he asks what she'd like, she excitedly requests grilled meat. As they head to a restaurant, she tugs on his sleeve, surprising him with her enthusiasm. During the meal, he asks if she stayed up all night studying, to which she nods, explaining that a classmate helped her and was an excellent teacher. Hearing this, Yamada feels a tinge of jealousy. She then asks for permission to order more food, and he starts to wonder about her classmate, recognizing he wouldn't have known about him if she hadn't mentioned it. Reflecting, he senses a growing distance, realizing that Makoto has her own world, surrounded by people her own age. Makoto notices his expression and asks if he's full. When he denies it, she offers him some of her noodles. He gloomily acknowledges that getting closer to her will take effort. On their way back, she asks if the restaurant was too expensive, and he reassures her. Nervously, he calls her by name and asks if she's free this weekend. Surprised, she curiously asks if he'd like to join her for some discounted deals. With a hint of anxiety, he suggests they go somewhere private, just the two of them. Acknowledging his intention, she understands that he's asking her on a date. In the end, Yamada regrets inviting her, admitting he isn't ready for this. Conflicted, he wonders if it would have been simpler to have the date at home and stresses over not having the right clothes for the occasion. Unsure of how things will turn out, he wonders if he should try a practice run on a dating sim. In that instant, memories from his past resurface. He recalls a date with his ex-girlfriend, where despite agreeing with everything his ex-girlfriend said, she eventually became frustrated and told him he was boring. Remembering this, a deep pang strikes his heart. Meanwhile, Makoto, caught up in her own thoughts, feels excited about spending time with him, while Yamada views the outing as a date. In a dire need to look different and stand out, she plans an unusual look. Her eyes then land on Kashiwagi, and she asks him to meet her behind the school building. He feels a surge of fear, as she has always seemed intimidating to him. Handing him a magazine, she asks what kinds of clothes boys generally like. Surprised, Kashiwagi asks if she's going on a date, which she quickly denies, flaring up in embarrassment. As he flips through the magazine, he comments that none of the outfits seem to match her style. After a few moments, while glancing at a picture of a girl on his phone, he suggests that an ornate dress with knee-high socks might be perfect. He adds that if Makoto brings something homemade, she will definitely win someone's heart. Annoyed, she retorts that she doesn't have knee-high socks. Finally, the day of the date arrives. Yamada feels a bit nervous, his stomach fluttering as he shows up dressed in the exact outfit that the store model wore. He scrolls through various potential date spots on his phone, but quickly feels overwhelmed by the sheer number of choices. Just then, Makoto arrives. He is taken aback, struck by how adorable she looks, marveling at just how incredibly cute she is. When she asks where they should go, mentioning that she made sandwiches, which could be unnecessary depending on their destination, Yamada quickly assures her it isn't. He suggests the zoo, adding that there's a polar bear exhibit today, to which she excitedly agrees. As they walk, he chastises himself for being nervous just moments ago, but now feeling unexpectedly calm. He reflects that he's selfish in expecting her to understand his changing moods. Makoto, on the other hand, wishes he'd hold her hand, but when he doesn't, she feels disheartened, wondering if he's just here as a friend, not a date. As they sit on the train, he notices her silence and attempts to start a conversation, but he struggles to find the right words. Smiling at her, he's puzzled when she turns away in annoyance. Unbeknownst to him, her reaction stems from how different he looks today, resembling a typical adult, without his usual otaku t-shirt or work uniform. When they arrive at the zoo, her excitement bubbles over, making her realize she's missed out on things like this. She eagerly asks where they should go first, and he replies that they can go wherever she wants, which frustrates her, making her feel like he only sees her as a little kid, especially since she's the only one visibly excited. Suddenly, Yamada's gaze falls on a model stand, and as he heads over, she asks where he's going. He replies with a vague no, and then leads her in another direction, reminding himself to enjoy the day with her and perhaps convey that she means more to him than just a neighbor. She becomes enchanted by the polar bears, commenting on how adorable they are, like living stuffed animals. Playfully, he says she's just as cute, causing her to blush and respond with, "Are you crazy?" Embarrassed, he apologizes for the sudden comment. Later, when he goes to get a drink, Makoto reflects on her happiness, pondering why she hides these feelings from herself. He offers her a choice between tea and oolong, and she picks tea. While drinking, he apologizes for being so tedious and boring, to which she unconsciously replies, "It's nothing like that. I'm happy but also nervous, and your cute comment made me really happy." Relieved, he realizes he's not the only one anxious about the date. Upon hearing the word date, her eyes widen in realization it really is a date. When they begin eating sandwiches, Yamada exclaims at the spice, saying, "It's spicy as heck." She panics, admitting she might have added too much mustard. But Yamada reassures her, saying he likes it spicy. She gently tells him he doesn't need to force himself, but he insists he genuinely likes spicy food. Lovingly, Makoto adds that he's exactly the fun person she imagined, which reminds him of his ex, who used to call him boring. Feeling a sense of calm, he places his hand over hers and thanks her, feeling that the tears in his eyes are from more than just the mustard. On a day off, Yamada sits in his room, smiling as he reminisces about their date at the zoo, realizing that the deep wounds in his heart are finally starting to heal. He reflects that he's beginning to think positively, acknowledging his feelings for her. Suddenly, Makoto shows up and teases him, saying he doesn't even own good manga. He holds his head in frustration, wanting to avoid situations like this, regretting ever letting her come over. He asks if her air conditioner is really broken, and she replies that she's tried everything, but it's still not working. She had even called her landlord, but he refused to fix it until tomorrow. She adds that it's unbearably hot, and he agrees to let her stay, at least until sunset. Watching her relish the cool air, he gets flustered and remarks that she should have worn something more appropriate since she's showing too much skin. Yamada finds himself lost in thoughts, realizing how much he cares for her, though he knows she's a high schooler and hasn't shown any sign of disinterest in him. His feelings continue to grow, and being close to her becomes a quiet torment. Makoto suggests doing something fun, so Yamada asks about her hobbies. She shares that she enjoys chatting with friends, shopping, reading magazines, watching TV, and even exercising to build her muscles. Assuming it's for fitness, he nods, but she clarifies that she's training for any real battles that might come her way. Puzzled, he tries to understand, and she considers him innocent, explaining that although she hasn't had any real battles, it's good to be prepared. She mentions her love for karate, showing off her biceps, which look stronger than his. Embarrassed when she lifts her shirt to show her abs, he quickly stops her, saying, "No." Looking at his shelves, Yamada shows her his plastic models and anime games. She admits she doesn't quite understand such games but thinks plastic models are alright. He picks one that's simple to assemble, though he doubts she'll find it fun. Placing a box in front of her, he explains that cutting the pieces leaves protrusions that need smoothing with a file. Hesitant at first, Yamada reassures her that it gets more enjoyable as the model takes shape. He reminds himself to maintain some distance as he focuses on the model. Working together, she proudly shows him her progress, her smile distracting him. She notices his hands, admiring how strong and attractive they look. When he asks if she's getting bored, she assures him she's really enjoying it. Then he tells her to let him know if she gets tired. Makoto reminisces about the past, recalling how he once said he didn't believe in love. She wonders if he still feels the same. Suddenly, she notices the time and realizes it's lunch. Makoto asks if she can make something, and when she opens the fridge, it's practically empty, with only a few bentos inside. Deciding to get better ingredients from her own place, she returns and starts cooking in his kitchen. Watching her, he recalls their date and feels she was at ease with him. Truthfully, he's so out of touch with romance that he doesn't know how to act without feeling inadequate. After finishing their model, she insists on keeping the one they made together, turning down his offer of a better one. Her beauty and words move him deeply, and in a quiet moment, she expresses her desire to stay with him forever. Overcome with emotion, he impulsively kisses her. Upon realizing what happened, she hastily leaves, feeling both anxious and confused. She wonders why she feels this way, sometimes close to Yamada, sometimes like he's a stranger. Meanwhile, Yamada lies in his room, caught between regret and lingering memories. He chides himself for his actions but can still feel the sensation of their kiss, calling himself foolish for how he acted. Makoto soon reaches her destination, where the staff welcomes her warmly as usual. Noticing the warmth she always receives there, her friend Rina explains it's all because of her father. Makoto apologizes for meeting so late, but Rina brushes it off, saying her parents are out and there's no need to worry. A staff member also greets Makoto, who replies that she's in his care today. The staff member remarks that Makoto's care for Rina surpasses their own. Jokingly, the staff member recalls how Miss Rina was teased by her classmates. After returning to school, she refused to come back, which saddened him. Begging, he lies down in front of Makoto, asking to spend more time with Rina. Embarrassed by his theatrics, Rina orders him to bring tea. After a while, Makoto confides in Rina, explaining that her neighbor Yamada kissed her, which left her shocked, causing her to leave her things behind and run out of his room. Rina, surprised, asks if Yamada confessed to her, and Makoto replies no. Teasingly, Rina suggests they drown him for his audacity, which flusters Makoto. As she reflects, Makoto admits that although Yamada seems submissive and slow, his calmness, strength, and serious demeanor stir her deeply. His presence makes her forget her worries, though it also leaves her heart uneasy. Rina listens with amusement, urging Makoto to examine her feelings and figure out what she really wants. Rina suggests that Makoto should talk to Yamada openly, encouraging her to be honest about her emotions. Playfully, Rina hints that Makoto should prepare for a second kiss, a comment that embarrasses Makoto. Meanwhile, the staff member outside happens to overhear everything. Makoto, still wearing her friend's clothes, tries to give them back, but Rina insists she keep them, remarking she doesn't care much for those clothes anyway, which makes Makoto nervous. Rina advises her to discuss things with Yamada and get her AC fixed. After saying goodbye, Makoto waits at the station for about 10 minutes, gathering the courage to face Yamada. Just then, she spots her other friend, Kashiwagi, who's surprised to see her dressed differently. Teasingly, Kashiwagi assumes she's been on another date, which annoys her, as she was simply heading home after shopping. Hearing the word home, Kashiwagi gets excited, eager to see Yamada, and insists on walking her back. She agrees, thinking it's better than going alone. Meanwhile, Yamada, having searched for her all night, is worried about where she could be. He feels both anxious and guilty, deciding to look for her again despite his nerves. Yamada wanders outside, searching for her frantically. He recalls her smile and shy expressions, thinking only about not upsetting her. Running with the thought that he doesn't want to upset her, he eventually stops to catch his breath, wondering if she has reached home. Thinking this, he starts running back home when he spots Makoto sitting with a boy on a bench. He's taken aback. On the other hand, Kashiwagi urges Makoto to go home since it's close by. She, looking uneasy, mentions she can't return just yet. Kashiwagi assumes she's missed her rent, which angers Makoto, leading her to explain that it's not true and ask him to wait a bit longer. As they are about to leave, Kashiwagi teasingly thinks it's all just drama, like someone asking for an extension on a dentist appointment. He pats her head in a brotherly way, and they bicker, all while Makoto's gaze drifts over to Yamada. They exchange glances until Kashiwagi breaks the silence, asking who Yamada is. Makoto introduces him as her neighbor, and Kashiwagi quickly recognizes him. Spotting an idol's picture on Yamada's shirt, he gets excited and rushes over. Introducing himself as Makoto's classmate, Kashiwagi mentions he's heard a lot about Yamada, making him nervous. Kashiwagi, an otaku who's usually shy about his interests, feels happy seeing others share his passion. He even brings up the limited edition mechanical pencil he gave to Makoto. Kashiwagi, sympathizing, asks Yamada to be his friend, though Yamada is still focused on what happened the night before and wants to speak with Makoto privately. Despite this, Yamada agrees, feeling a connection with Kashiwagi. Makoto calls out that she needs Yamada's help, but Kashiwagi insists Makoto return home, sparking a minor argument between them. Makoto is stunned by Kashiwagi's sudden assertiveness, a change from his usual timidity, and considers hitting him in frustration. Yamada, tired and out of breath, suggests they all go to a family restaurant, which Makoto finds ridiculous. However, Kashiwagi is very enthusiastic, pulling Yamada along. Seated in the restaurant, Kashiwagi confides in Yamada about his desire to attend the summer Comiket together. Makoto, hearing them, asks what Comiket is, but Kashiwagi dismisses her question, telling her to mind her own business. When she insists she ask Yamada, not him, Yamada explains that Comiket is an event for manga and anime fans to showcase their own work and participate in cosplay. She questions why Kashiwagi is fighting about this, and Kashiwagi jokingly comments on her surprising lack of resistance this time, remarking that, despite her rough exterior, she's actually a nice girl. Makoto becomes frustrated about hearing this. Yamada then asks Kashiwagi what Makoto is like at school. Kashiwagi replies, describing her as a rude girl whom others fear, though her reputation has improved recently, admitting he himself used to be intimidated by her. Makoto, irritated, yells that she wants to punch him. Yamada contemplates how much Makoto has grown, realizing she's become equal to Kashiwagi in many ways. Though they bicker, there's an understanding between them that feels natural, likely due to their close age. Kashiwagi curiously asks if Yamada will attend Comiket, and Yamada agrees. Surprisingly, Makoto expresses interest too, leading to yet another argument between her and Kashiwagi. He dismisses her, stating that Comiket is no place for beginners. Determined, Makoto insists she'll go regardless and leaves to get a drink. Yamada overhears a nearby table, where two girls are arguing about relationships. One girl mentions a guy named Masada who kissed her, but she rejected him, making him furious, which led her to dislike him. Yamada feels oddly as if she's speaking to him, and while overthinking, he wonders in which direction today's generation is heading in life. He becomes worried that Makoto might similarly distance herself after their kiss. Another girl mentions a possessive guy who became distant without explanation, expressing her frustration with people who don't communicate and hates those people who don't communicate directly and those who create misunderstandings on their own. Yamada, suddenly panicked, wonders if the girls are mocking him. Just then, Kashiwagi returns, noticing Yamada's unease, and they start a conversation about the complexities of modern relationships. Yamada curiously asks what high schoolers think about dating, which catches Kashiwagi off guard. After a pause, Kashiwagi says he doesn't dwell on such things but believes no idealized girl could compare to a real one who captures one's heart. Yamada agrees, musing that's why he admires real girls. Kashiwagi, sensing his friend's sincerity, jokingly asks if Yamada likes a girl named Oshina. Yamada becomes completely flustered. Kashiwagi demonstrates that he felt that way because they are neighbors. Kashiwagi laughs it off, remarking on the unlikely age difference and societal constraints. On hearing this, Yamada feels embarrassed. Makoto returns with her drink just as Kashiwagi, teasingly, suggests that Yamada shouldn't fall for such a rude girl, showing him a photo of a model as an example of someone more graceful. This enrages Makoto, though she remains silent as their food arrives. After they eat, Kashiwagi reminds Yamada not to forget their plans for Comiket and says goodbye. When Makoto is about to leave, Yamada quietly apologizes to Makoto for his earlier actions. She, hurt, turns back and demands to know why he's apologizing, expressing how she feels for the first time. With tears in her eyes, she admits that since it's her first experience of such emotions with him, she wishes he'd avoid saying things that would wound her heart. Moved, Yamada hugs her tightly, and they share a profound, unspoken connection.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.